Chosen one, there is a moment in every ascent when the strongest thing a man can do is become quiet inside his own power. This month, that moment comes to you again and again, wrapped in admiration and presented as opportunity. The attention is sincere, the possessiveness is real, the pull is flattering. Yet the curriculum is the same each time. Learn to hold heat without using it to negotiate your worth. Restraint is not the opposite of desire. It is desire choosing a future. It is your high energy learning good manners, your charisma learning a home address, your yes learning to mean more by being said less often. Women will feel your capacity and want to keep it near. Not because they are greedy, but because scarcity has trained them to clutch what finally feels safe. Your restraint answers scarcity with abundance. The abundance of pace, of clarity, of endings that do not injure the beginnings still to come. There is a grammar to restraint that your body already knows. The way your shoulders lower instead of leaning in to harvest what has not been offered. The way your hands rest open when proximity grows charged, so the room can remember that nearness is never a right. The way your breath stays slow when eyes brighten, teaching everyone present that excitement is not an emergency. You once learned languages to impress. Now you are fluent in a language that keeps people whole. The words you choose obey the same grammar. You speak in present tense because present tense truth is clean. You let affection be accurate instead of dramatic. You refuse to purchase calm by giving away tomorrow's clarity. And when you do not know what to say without borrowing from the future, you let quiet stand guard so nobility does not have to apologize later for what adrenaline announced. Restraint reveals itself in your timing. You end evenings before they spill into the hour where loneliness tries on romance's clothes. You leave while tenderness is still breathing, not to prove a point, but because you love the future more than you love applause for the present. You do not let curiosity pretend to be intimacy. You do not let flattery pretend to be permission. You do not let urgency pretend to be destiny. You slow the scene to a human pace, and in doing so allow consent to be more than a checkbox. It becomes the climate. Possessiveness has trouble breathing in such air. It loosens its grip because the scene keeps telling the truth without asking anyone to shrink. Your restraint will be misread at times. Some will call it cold because they are unaccustomed to warmth that does not consume. Smile and let fruit explain you. The woman who meets you in the morning after a kind goodbye will discover that her memory is soft at the edges instead of sore. The one who expected your ego to demand proof will notice that your respect asked for nothing it did not first give. The friend who worried you would turn magnetism into leverage will find that your presence multiplied her agency instead. This is what restraint does. It makes room where appetite would have made a claim. It is not only others who are learning from your restraint. You are too. You are learning the shape of your strength when it is not trying to be photographed. You are learning how much affection can say with its pace alone. You are learning that a man's authority in a room is measured not by how much he can start, but by how well he knows when to stop. Restraint is your yes to governance and your no to spectacle. It is the quiet rescue of your own soul from becoming a public utility. It returns you to the source that made your energy sacred, rather than marketable. In that returning, your power gains a weight that flattery cannot counterfeit. Practice restraint in small, ordinary places so it is available in the charged ones. Answer the message when your attention can afford honesty, not when your ego wants to be seen replying. Choose food that does not send tomorrow the bill for tonight's charm. Keep the promise you made to your rest, even when the invitation is excellent. Tidy the moments you enter so others do not have to clean up after your glow. These are not chores. They are the chisels that shape a crown you do not have to hold with your hands. The crown stays where character keeps it. When possessiveness tightens, let your restraint widen the room. Invite daylight, counsel, slower settings, the kind of conversation that stretches rather than compresses. If a boundary is needed, let it be spoken early, specific, and kind. If an apology is owed, let it arrive with verbs and without violins. Do not turn a lesson into a lecture. Let your pace do most of the teaching. This is how chosen ones convert a month of heightened desire into a year of durable trust. They leave people more themselves, not more dependent. They turn awe into alignment by refusing to owe what love did not promise. Bring all of it back to God at night. Tell Him where you felt the old addiction to being necessary. Tell Him where you ended, while tenderness still glowed and felt the ache of leaving well. Ask for a softer edge, where certainty grew sharp, for a stronger spine where kindness risked becoming capitulation, for a quieter ego where attention tried to be your oxygen. Sleep as a steward, not a spectacle, and wake to the same assignment you carried into dusk. Remain the man whose warmth does not demand and whose light does not interrogate. That is restraint's lesson, working in you until it is indistinguishable from your nature. Chosen one, a crown that is not anchored becomes a prop. God has not placed theater on your head. He has set order there. Self-mastery is the band that keeps the jewels from slipping, the invisible workmanship that allows a mantle to be worn while hands remain free to serve. This month, when attention surges and possessiveness rises like a tide, your crown is tested not by how dazzling you appear, but by how governable you remain. Mastery is not domination of others, it is dominion over the inner country. Thoughts that once sprinted, now choosing to walk. Appetites that once bargained, now choosing to bless. Feelings that once flooded, now choosing to flow within banks that make them useful. Begin at the center, where your mornings decide whether the day will be loud or loyal. Self-mastery keeps a quiet covenant before it keeps any appointment. It attends to the breath that teaches your body not to hunt for validation. It opens scripture until your identity stops auditioning for the world. It prays without negotiation, asking not for a performance schedule, but for a pace aligned with obedience. In that early governance, your high energy receives its assignment. Animate patience, fund attention, power restraint, keep delight bright without turning it into demand. You stop asking your voltage to prove you are alive. You start asking it to help others breathe. Mastery is visible in your craft, whatever your craft may be. You do the next faithful thing without needing a crowd to watch you sharpen your tools. You choose excellence that is portable, not excellence that requires spectacle to be believed. You keep your deadlines without turning humans into obstacles. You treat your calendar like a liturgy and your word like architecture. You discover that consistency tastes like freedom, because you no longer need crises to feel needed or fireworks to feel present. The crown sits level when the day is built on small stones that do not wobble under weight. It is also visible in your body, which becomes not a billboard, but an instrument tuned for usefulness. You sleep because kindness depends on it. You move so strength remains a resource instead of a rumor. You eat to fuel clarity more than charisma. A regulated nervous system is the throne where self-mastery sits. It keeps you from mistaking adrenaline for anointing and infatuation for instruction. Women will feel this regulation before they can name it. Their shoulders lower around you because your edges do not ask them to bleed to stay close. Self-mastery speaks through boundaries that sound like hospitality rather than suspicion. Your no arrives early enough to be kind. Your yes arrives slow enough to be trusted. You do not make others pay for your inability to choose. You do not ask the room to manage your heat. You do not hide behind ambiguity to keep options open that integrity has already closed. When attention tries to crown you king of someone else's outcome, you step down, put your hand over your heart, and remember that every life has its own sovereignty under God. Possessiveness fades in the presence of a man who will not take what is not his to hold. The crown gleams most when you are interrupted. Plans shift, a need appears, a misreading of your kindness asks for more than you can give. Self-mastery does its calmest work here. You remain exact without becoming severe, generous without becoming porous, present without becoming permissive. You decline with sentences that leave dignity intact. You help without converting help into a currency. You forgive without turning mercy into a leash. These are not tricks. They are the ordinary miracles of a governed soul. Let humility be the padding beneath the crown so it never bruises you. Receive praise like weather, nice when it's sunny, workable when it rains, never the reason you went outside. Deflect flattery gently toward the team, the mentors, the God whose light you are borrowing. Admit ignorance without theatrics. Ask questions without smuggling in a sermon. The proud man spends himself trying to be impressive. The masterful man spends himself trying to be useful. Usefulness over time becomes its own quiet legend, the kind that makes rooms breathe easier rather than hold their breath. There is a secret labor to self-mastery that will never trend, the protection of what must remain unphotographed. Keep a drawer of moments that belong to no audience. The prayer whispered in a parking lot for a stranger whose face you'll never see again, the apology you wrote and sent before your ego could edit it, the hour you canceled to keep your soul honest, the money given where your name cannot follow it. These private victories thicken the band of the crown until it can carry public weight without slipping. Invite others into your governance so that mastery does not become isolation. Let elders read your pace and ask if your mercy is keeping up with your clarity. Let peers see your calendar and ask if your Sabbath is still sacred. Let the young watch you end at a human hour so they learn that kings sleep. Share the stories that make you smaller and truer, not just the ones that make you shine. Mastery multiplies when it is witnessed in the wild, not curated on a stage. When possessiveness reaches for you, the crown of self-mastery answers without raising its voice. It does not punish the reach, it teaches the open hand. It steadies the air with rhythm. It keeps the conversation modest in size and rich in truth. It makes choices that bless the woman in front of you, even if those choices cost you a chapter you might have enjoyed writing. It remembers that you were not crowned to be central, you were crowned to be consistent. Centrality asks for followers, consistency creates futures. End the day by laying the crown where it belongs. Thank God for the hours your governance held when attention tried to loosen it. Confess the minutes where you reached for the easy win and ask for a stronger spine. Bless the women who felt safe enough to be honest around you and ask that they leave more themselves because your mastery did not need to make a myth. Sleep undefended. Chosen one. The crown will be where you left it in the morning. Not because you performed perfectly, but because God trusts a man who keeps returning his power to its source. Then rise, set it on with the same quiet hands, and walk out again as living proof that high energy without self-mastery is hazard, but high energy with self-mastery is home. Chosen one, there is meaning hiding inside the grasp. When a woman's fingers tighten around your presence, through her gaze, through her tone, through the way her schedule begins to orbit yours, do not read the moment only as control. Read it as a flare fired from the shoreline of her history. The possessive reflex is a grammar learned in places where promises broke before morning, where attention arrived as a loan with cruel interest, where warmth was something to hoard because winter kept coming back. This month, your high energy feels like weather that might finally hold. The hand that reaches is not always greedy. It is often guarding the first patch of steady sky it has seen in years. Purpose meets you precisely there. God did not make you magnetic so that you could be collected like a rare coin. He made you magnetic so that you could turn grasping into grounding. The task is not to be possessed, but to shepherd the impulse within it into something truer. Covenant with truth, respect for pace, reverence for agency. When the grasp appears, let your body answer first with calm. Shoulders unlifted, voice unhurried, eyes that affirm without buying, posture that makes room rather than requiring it. You are teaching the moment a surprising lesson. Safety does not need fences to stay. The possessive impulse will ask for guarantees it has not earned and that you cannot honestly give. Do not counterfeit comfort with large words that your character would have to chase tomorrow. Offer present tense accuracy instead. Tell the truth about what you can carry and at what speed you can carry it. Admiration will call this restraint. Time will call it love. In the quiet after such sentences, you will hear a deeper question. The grasp was asking all along. Are you a man whose warmth will stay governed if I stop gripping? Your steadiness becomes the answer. A hand that knows it will not be dropped can learn to open. Remember that possession is a misdirected compliment. It says, in a clumsy dialect, you feel like home. Honor the compliment by building rooms, not cages. Choose settings that keep everyone human. Daylight conversations, clear endings, plans small enough to keep your word without borrowing from the future. Let your attentiveness return power instead of renting it. Ask questions that hand her story back to her. Bless every boundary as information rather than opposition. In this climate, the possessive reflex begins to understand itself. It softens into clarity. I want to be near what keeps me whole, not own what keeps me afraid. You will be tempted to translate possession into proof. Ego loves the feeling of being necessary. Loneliness loves the feeling of being chosen. Resist the theater. If you make yourself central to someone else's oxygen, you will eventually have to choose between breathing for both of you and being honest with either of you. The purpose in this season is cleaner. Become a landmark, not a lifeboat. Landmarks do not chase ships. They remain visible, reliable, aligned with true north. The ships chart their courses better for having seen the shore. When grasping grows insistent, widen the room rather than squeezing inside it. Invite counsel. Invite slower pace. Invite environments where admiration cannot impersonate intimacy. Invite prayer, spoken or silent, so that your presence is not the only light in the scene. Purpose always multiplies witnesses. Possession prefers secrecy. By opening the windows, you let air correct appetite and let truth keep its color. You will notice that voices you trust make the moment less dramatic and more exact. Exactness is where freedom returns. Do not despise the ache that tightens a hand. Bless it by refusing to use it. There is a holiness in leaving people more themselves than they were when they reached for you. You accomplish that by holding the line where your calling ends and God's begins, by offering comfort without annexing agency, by giving affection its grammar, consent as climate, touch as translation of character, departure as benediction and not a test. The possessive heart learns, through repeated exposures to this kind of man, that closeness can exist without cost, and that love can be strong without swallowing. Underneath it all, keep a private altar where you return every reach. Name the moments you almost turned awe into leverage. Name the minutes you kept the pace human, when adrenaline lobbied for legend. Thank God for the restraint that crowned your energy and the clarity that guarded both of you. Ask for a spine that prefers accuracy to centrality, a heart that prefers service to spectacle. Do this, and the purpose hidden in possession will begin to show. Not your enthronement, but her restoration. Not your collection, but her coherence. Not the ownership of your light, but the remembering of her own. Fulfillment does not arrive with trumpets, chosen one. It settles like good architecture. Quiet lines, clean weight, rooms that hold. By month's end, you will notice that what began as a surge has become a structure. Your energy is no longer a storm that impresses and leaves. It is a climate that grows things. The women who crossed your path will not remember you as a cliff they almost fell from, but as ground that let their steps be honest. The possessiveness that once reached will have, in many, uncurled into trust. In others, it will have revealed what it was really asking for and walked away with dignity intact. Both outcomes are victory when alignment has held. Alignment is the marriage of heat and governance, magnetism and mission, presence and pace. It looks unspectacular on paper and feels extraordinary in the body. It sounds like words that fit inside calendars, like apologies that move furniture rather than emotions, like laughter that does not hire a casualty to be memorable. It tastes like meals ended on time, like sleep taken before tomorrow had to pay for it, like kindness offered without an invoice. It smells like a room after rain, cleaned, not flooded. In this alignment, your high energy finally knows its job, not to demand attention, but to power attention that heals. You will find yourself measuring success differently. The compliments that once felt like currency will become weather, pleasant when sunny, workable when it rains. Your ledgers will track a subtler economics. How many shoulders dropped near you? How many boundaries were spoken sooner? How many conversations ended with tomorrow still whole? How often you chose the long hallway with the good light over the door marked urgent? The fulfilled man is not starved of applause. He is simply too nourished by coherence to live on it. Fulfillment rewrites touch into theology. When it belongs, it says with skin what your habits have proven with time. I am here, I am governed, I honor your pace, I will not rent the future to decorate this hour. When it does not belong, absence speaks fluently and leaves no bruise on the moment. The body keeps minutes that memory misplaces. Those minutes will tell the truth about your alignment, long after narratives try to edit the past. If, in the months to come, a woman thinks of you and her breath deepens rather than shortens, you have practiced fulfillment well. Purpose will feel less like a banner and more like a routine. You will carry names into rooms and return them larger. You will spend money in ways that taste like peace and not proof. You will schedule rest as if it were part of the mission, because it is. You will choose excellence that can be repeated rather than spectacle that must be rescued. You will stop creating cliffhangers to guarantee another chapter. Fulfillment is the art of making tomorrow grateful for how you live today. There will be a sweetness in ordinary moments that did not survive the earlier versions of you. The walk that ends at a reasonable hour, the coffee where conversation stays the size of truth, the text that clarifies without auditioning for poetic effect, the quiet generosity that leaves no fingerprints. These are not the scenes people post, and yet they are the ones that keep stories from becoming cautionary tales. Alignment is most visible, ironically, when no one is looking. You will discover that your influence travels farther when it is less about you. Women will recommend your presence not because it dazzled, but because it did not devour. Men will ask about your pace and learn to end their own evenings while tenderness still breathes. Younger eyes will watch you apologize quickly and conclude that strength and softness are not rivals. Elders will nod because they recognize the sound of a life that has chosen witness over performance. This is fulfillment multiplying, impact that does not require your constant management to remain true. Keep one drawer unphotographed. Leave there the prayers whispered for strangers, the offered reparations that no one demanded, the hours surrendered to keep your soul honest, the gifts given where your name could not follow. These are the anchors that keep alignment from becoming branding. They remind you that you were not called to be central, you were called to be consistent. Centrality asks for audience. Consistency creates culture. When you look back across the month, notice how possession's impulse was not eradicated by argument, but transformed by atmosphere. You entered rooms with a governed glow. You left them with more space for other people's breath. You learned to hold heat without negotiating your worth, to translate awe into accuracy, to bless the ache without borrowing it. Fulfillment is precisely this. The moment a man realizes that his light is safest when it illumines more than it advertises, that his strength is truest when it steadies more than it seizes, that his presence is holiest when it sends people home more themselves. Close the chapter with a benediction only you and God need to hear. Thank Him for the hands that loosened because they trusted you. Thank Him for the no you honored, the yes you did not hurry, the goodbyes that guarded beginnings. Confess where ego wanted to be necessary, and receive, again, the quieter gift of being useful. Ask for the same courage tomorrow to choose future over frenzy, service over spectacle, covenant over chemistry. Then sleep without guarding your image. The man who keeps alignment sleeps as a steward, and morning always finds stewards ready. Chosen one, God often hands a man a mirror in the moment he is most tempted to stare at his crown. This month, the mirror is the feminine. Faces brightening when you enter, voices softening because your tone makes room, glances that hold a second too long because your steadiness feels like shelter. Possessiveness may arrive inside those moments disguised as devotion, but if you look carefully, you will see what it truly is. Reflection. She is not only reaching for you, she is reaching for the part of herself your presence has awakened. Your coherence, the agreement between heat and holiness, strength and softness, reminds her of a rhythm she was designed to keep. Admiration turns possessive when fear believes the rhythm will be stolen. Do not shame the fear, answer it with accuracy. Accuracy begins with how you see her. When a woman circles closer, do not read only hunger, read history. Read the rooms where boundaries were currency and affection was a wage. Read the nights where charm arrived with invoices and attention came as a loan. Your task is not to fix those rooms, you cannot, but to refuse to recreate them. Let your energy be a mirror that returns her to herself, rather than a magnet that strips her for proof. Show her, by how you listen, that her voice does not need to perform to stay in the room. Show her, by how you look, that her beauty does not need to purchase its safety. Show her, by how you leave, that endings can be gentle and exact, so beginnings never have to be afraid. The mirror will also reveal you to you. Notice which kinds of praise make your posture grow an inch taller, and which kinds make your spine look for a stage. Notice whether your kindness remains the same size when no one is clapping. Notice how quickly you reach for large words when small ones would keep the moment human. Possessiveness can feel like a promotion to the man whose ego is hungry. You must remain fed elsewhere, by prayer that does not ask for spectacle, by work that does not need to be seen to be real, by rest that does not require an audience to be valuable. When your appetite is governed, admiration becomes information, not intoxication. Hold up a clean mirror with your words. When she praises your strength, reflect her resilience. When she marvels at your restraint, reflect her wisdom to name pace. When her possessiveness tightens, reflect her agency by giving it back. I'm honored by your interest, and I want this to remain healthy for both of us. When her story spills toward you, reflect her dignity by not purchasing intimacy with curiosity. Ask the question that returns power, not the one that buys revelation. The mirror teaches by accuracy. It does not flatter, it frames. Make the mirror practical. Protect the hour with edges. Suggest coffee where the room has windows instead of a corner where urgency could impersonate closeness. Offer walks that let the body move while the truth finds language. End while tenderness still breathes so memory can keep its color. Send the follow-up that is exact and kind. I value what we shared. I'm keeping a pace that honors tomorrow. Precision is mercy. It teaches her nervous system that love can be clean without being cold. There will be moments when possessiveness asks for guarantees you cannot give honestly. Do not counterfeit security with speed. Promise only what your character can chaperone. A present tense truth is worth more than a future tense performance. If the mirror shows you pressure, widen the frame. Invite counsel, invite daylight, invite pauses. When admiration has witnesses, it matures. When it hides, it hardens. You will know the mirror is doing holy work when her shoulders lower, that her sentences lengthen, and her laughter loses that metallic pitch it learned from survival. Let the mirror correct you into gentleness and sharpen you into clarity. You are not responsible for healing what you did not break, but you are responsible for refusing to use what is fragile. When you carry her attention like a glass of water balanced on an open palm, careful, grateful, unpossessive, you teach both of you something the world forgets. That power can be a porch light and not a searchlight. That heat can be a hearth and not a wildfire. That desire can tell the truth and still let both souls keep their names. In that kind of reflection, possessiveness does not need to grip. It learns to open its hand. And then, chosen one, look into the mirror one more time each night. Alone with God. Let him adjust what the day bent, rinse what the day stained, brighten what the day dulled. Name where you wanted to be central, more than accurate, and let that confession be the polish that keeps the mirror clear. You will sleep without guarding your image because your integrity will be on duty, and you will wake ready to reflect again, not to be owned, but to be useful. Invite slowness when the room requests spectacle. Suggest a walk instead of a corner. Suggest questions with long answers instead of confessions with short applause. Suggest water instead of another hour you cannot afford. Slowness is not always exciting, but it is always honest. Honesty is what steadies hands that want to hold too tightly. If she reaches to keep you, stillness helps her discover she is safe without closing her fist. Keep a few people close who love your quiet more than your glow. Let them ask whether you are gentler this week or merely more praised, whether you are more exact or only more visible, whether you are more rested or just more in demand. Accountability shrinks the stage until your soul fits again. It reminds you that applause is a weather report, not a sacrament. The sacrament is obedience. Obedience is done at human speed. There will be days when stillness looks like saying no to a good thing because a true thing asked first. There will be nights when stillness looks like ending a beautiful conversation because you love the future too much to rent it for an hour. There will be moments when stillness looks like letting a misunderstanding stand because chasing it would turn your life into a courtroom. None of these choices will trend. All of them will endure. Possessiveness cannot argue with a man who does not need to be a legend. Close your evenings with the liturgy of release. Return to God the attention that tried to cling to you. Hand Him the moments you wanted to decorate when plain would have done. Thank Him for the no you honored, the yes you did not hurry, the laughter that did not hire a casualty, the boundary that stayed kind. Ask for a smaller ego and a stronger spine, a softer edge and a slower clock. Sleep like a steward who knows the field will be there at dawn. In the morning, rise at the same human pace. Let breath find its measure and let prayer find its sentence. Walk into the day without announcing yourself. Stillness will go with you as gravity, keeping you aligned while the world tries to magnetize you into every story. Women may still feel the first reflex to hold you tight. Your stillness will guide them to the second reflex, to trust themselves more because of how you handled the first. And you, chosen one, will discover that the strongest men are not the ones who move fastest, but the ones who move from a center that does not. Chosen one, the air knows you before the room does this month. Doors open and the atmosphere tilts a degree warmer, like a subtle summer stepping into spring's last afternoon. You have felt it already, the way glances pause an extra heartbeat, the way conversation drifts toward you as if your chair were the center of gravity. This is not an accident, nor is it a trick to flatter your ego. It is the evidence of alignment finally ringing true in your bones. What people are sensing is coherence, body and spirit, desire and discipline, voltage and vow standing in agreement. High energy without a center is a siren. High energy under God's hand becomes a bell that calls things to order. Women will feel that call, and some will mistake the steadiness for something they should hold on to, a certainty they must guard, a warmth they do not want to see shared. Possessiveness is the world's clumsy language for, "This feels rare, please don't let it vanish." Your work is to translate that language into peace. Understand the mechanics at play. Your presence is reading as safety at the same time it reads as strength. In a culture that too often offers one without the other, encountering both in a single person can shock the system. The reflex to claim you is not always greed. Often it is fear in nicer shoes. When the nervous system meets a climate where it can finally exhale, it tries to build a fence around the weather. Do not resent the instinct, do not indulge it either. Receive the attention as feedback, not as fuel. Let it teach you how your tone calms, how your posture widens space, how your eyes bless without bargaining. Then return the hour to its right size. You are not a prize on a shelf, you are a person on assignment. Your energy is not a commodity to be owned. It is a current to be stewarded. Stewardship begins with pace. Walk at the speed where truth can keep up with intention. If you slow the room by keeping your voice low and your answers exact, you remind every soul present that clarity is more nourishing than intensity. Possessiveness grows in shadows where ambiguity breeds fast. It shrinks in daylight where boundaries are spoken kindly and early. You do not need speeches to make this clear. Your departures on time will say it. Your laughter that doesn't hire injury will say it. Your refusal to convert someone's admiration into leverage will say it. Keep saying it with the quiet choices that leave everyone's dignity standing when the evening ends. Do not confuse inevitability with entitlement. Favor will usher you forward, but you are not free to spend people to decorate that favor. The discipline that brought you here must remain visible while the room tries to make you myth. Let your yes be precise enough to be lived tomorrow. Let your no be gentle enough to leave the door unbroken. When a gaze asks for ownership instead of fellowship, let your posture answer before your mouth does. Open hands, soft eyes, shoulders that do not lean in to harvest what hasn't been offered. Your restraint is not ice, it is architecture. It keeps warmth from becoming wildfire. Remember too that possessiveness is a mirror. It reflects not only your glow, but the unmet needs of those who want to wrap both hands around it. See beneath the reach to the ache, exhaustion with counterfeit strength, boredom with surface, hunger for a presence that will not vanish when the lights change. Bless that ache with your steadiness and your accuracy. Offer attention that does not invoice. Offer kindness that does not negotiate. Offer boundaries that do not punish. Person by person, room by room, you will teach with your atmosphere that holiness and heat can share the same skin without devouring anyone. At day's end, Bring the brightness back to the one who lit it. Name where temptation tried to reroute purpose into performance. Name where you were seen clearly and stayed human anyway. Ask for tomorrow's pace to be as honest as today's favor is loud. Sleep like a steward, not a spectacle. You will wake to the same assignment. Be warm without burning. Be bright without blinding. Be strong without seizing. Women may try to hold you tighter this month. Answer the reach with presence that reassures and boundaries that keep everyone free. Chapter 2. The Pull of Desire. Chosen one, attraction is arriving like tide, persistent, rhythmic, difficult to ignore. You will feel the pull in rooms and hallways and unplanned moments when ordinary errands turn ceremonial. Women will sense a rare combination in you, a flame that does not flicker in the wind and a hearth that does not demand tribute. The body reads that as home, and the heart, startled by the recognition, may try to lock the door. Possessiveness often begins as praise with panic inside it. Your calling is to turn panic into peace by choosing path over performance at every point of contact. Begin where the pull begins, with breath. Your breathing is the first sermon your presence preaches. Keep it unhurried so that consent can remain the music of every interaction, not a formality stapled to the end. Let your cadence make room for no, for not yet, for I need to think, and treat those phrases as sacred, not as puzzles to be solved. Possessiveness loses its edge when people learn that their pace will be honored, even when your energy could carry both of you faster. You are not here to accelerate anyone's loneliness into decision. You are here to respect the rhythm by which trust grows sturdy. The pull will ask you for clarity. Vibes are cheap, vows are expensive. Keep your words the size of your character. Speak promises that your calendar can defend, not just your chemistry. When a moment grows charged and the air asks for labels, do not rent tomorrow's language to make today feel safer. Tell the truth in present tense and let your behavior keep telling it after the moment ends. If a woman's admiration starts to harden into possession, answer with sentences that return agency to her and responsibility to you. I honor your interest. I'm moving slowly on purpose. I enjoy your company. I won't trade clarity for intensity. I'm grateful for this connection. I will keep it healthy, even if healthy costs me flattery. Spoken softly, these are not rejections. They are invitations to freedom. Touch will request an audition. Let it sing only the song your integrity wrote. If it belongs, let it confirm safety rather than purchase intimacy. If it does not belong, let absence be a blessing rather than a punishment. Bodies remember whether they were honored or used. Memories are where futures are negotiated. When your restraint leaves someone more themselves, the pull has done holy work. When your hunger asks someone to become smaller, the pull has become a thief. Keep choosing the holy work. There will be moments when possessiveness flatters your ego in the costume of devotion. Smile and step aside internally. You do not need to be worshipped to feel worthy. Being chosen by God already settled that question. The adoration in her eyes may feel like a throne being built. Choose a table instead. Tables invite conversation. Thrones demand loyalty. Sit where the truth can breathe. Ask questions that hand her story back to her. Listen until your curiosity becomes service rather than strategy. If she is meant to walk with you, this pace will deepen the bond. If not, this pace will spare you both the cost of a legend you could not live. Invite counsel to stand watch while the pull is strongest. Keep 2 or 3 who can look you in the face and ask whether you are more exact or merely more admired, more patient or merely more praised, more generous or merely more visible. Accountability ensures the pull does not become a private river excavating channels that others will later fall into. Let those voices recalibrate your gait whenever urgency starts masquerading as inevitability. Do not despise the ache that draws people near. Refuse to exploit it. See it, bless it, and remain accurate. The possessive grasp is often trying to protect something precious. The memory of being understood without audition. The comfort of being seen without being sold. If your presence has awakened that longing, answer it with steadiness that points beyond yourself. Offer to pray. Offer silence that does not require entertainment. Offer small plans kept faithfully, because kept small plans are where hope relearns how to walk without clinging. And when the tide is highest, when attention crowds your steps and admiration grows bold, Remember the shoreline you are keeping. You are here to be a landmark, not a lifeboat. Landmarks do not chase ships. They remain visible, reliable, aligned with true north. Stand in that posture. Let your integrity keep its light. Let your boundaries keep their kindness. Let your words keep their weight. Women may not be able to help the first instinct to hold you tight this month. Help them with the second instinct, to trust themselves more because of how you handled the first. When night comes, lay the pole back into God's hands. Thank Him for the moments that stayed clean, for the no you honored, for the yes you did not hurry, for the laughter that did not need a casualty, for the goodbyes that left tomorrow uninjured. Where you felt your ego reaching for a crown, ask for a smaller heart and a stronger spine. Where you felt fear trying to hide beneath attention, ask for deeper roots. Sleep without guarding your image. Wake without needing the world to tell you who you are. Then walk again as a man whose energy is high, whose spirit is governed, and whose love of freedom is large enough to include everyone who meets him. Chosen one, power has a texture, and this month you can feel it under your fingertips like the grain on a well-made table. People lean their elbows on it without quite knowing why. Conversations rest upon it, and eyes search for it when rooms begin to wobble. This is the weight of magnetism. Not a costume you put on, but a density you carry. Women will sense it the moment your presence steadies the temperature of a space. It will register as relief and thrill at once, and because the world has taught many to guard what feels rare, some will try to hold you with their wanting to keep you close by tightening the circle rather than deepening the trust. Receive the sign without resenting the longing. The possessive impulse is a testimony that your energy does not merely entertain, it reassures. It says to nervous systems that have been bargaining with chaos, here is a person who will not evaporate at the first hint of weather. Do not let the weight convince you that you are made to be carried around like a trophy. You are meant to be leaned on responsibly. Magnetism invites you to become furniture, not a fixture, sturdy enough to host honest lives and mobile enough to move where God asks. Remember how you got this heavy in the first place, by keeping small promises to your soul, by doing ordinary integrity at unphotographed hours, by letting devotion outrank display. Keep to those roads now that the traffic has increased. Arrive on time to the appointments no one else tracks. Keep your breath slow when attention tries to pick up the pace on your behalf. Taste your words before offering them, because everything you speak carries more gravity in this season and can either anchor or sink delicate beginnings. Notice the physics of your presence and steward them. Magnetism pulls, stewardship protects. Your task is to ensure that what is drawn toward you is not damaged in its approach. You do this with posture that makes space, with eyes that confirm rather than inventory, with a tone that refuses to conflate urgency with intimacy. Say sentences that leave doors on their hinges. I value this, and I'm moving at a human speed. I enjoy our connection, and I want tomorrow to trust me. I'm honored by your interest, and I won't spend clarity to purchase intensity. These are not shields against affection. They are scaffolds that allow affection to grow without falling on those beneath it. Your high energy will try to volunteer as leader in every room. Remind it that leadership is service measured in repair speed, not spotlight wattage. If a misunderstanding appears, choose verbs over violins. I spoke too soon, I'll slow down. I missed your cue, I'll ask better questions. I let the moment run long, let's end here so it stays beautiful. When you repair quickly, magnetism becomes medicine. When you refuse repair to protect myth, magnetism becomes manipulation. The women who meet you will know the difference by how their bodies feel after the moment ends, more rested and precise, or more edited and uncertain. Chase the first outcome and correct whenever you create the second. Prepare for the quiet temptation of being necessary. Necessity turns magnetism into gravity wells where other lives go to orbit and never learn their own trajectories. Importance whispers that you must be the solution. Wisdom replies that you must be a witness. Witnessing listens without purchasing, blesses without branding, advocates without annexing. If someone's admiration tightens into control, let your steadiness loosen the rope. Celebrate their no as much as their yes, so their choices don't begin to fear your approval. A man who can be desired without demanding possession is a man whose presence educates the room. This is the teaching the month requires of you. Let your body keep telling the truth. Eat for tomorrow's clarity more than tonight's charm. Sleep at hours that protect patience. Move enough to remind your strength who it serves. The regulated body is a sanctuary. The depleted body becomes a stage. Stages breed audiences who clap to keep you performing. Sanctuaries hold congregations who leave knowing God and themselves a little better. Chosen ones do not build their months around applause. They build their months around altars, where ego lays down its crowns at closing time so they don't grow heavy overnight. Finally, weigh what you do not say. Silence is not withholding when it saves dignity from becoming currency. Keep the private drawer where unadvertised goodness lives. The prayer you prayed for someone you'll never meet again. The apology you offered before anyone could applaud. The plan you canceled to keep your soul honest. These quiet weights keep the balance when attention leans hard. When you invest in them, your magnetism will keep drawing people. But it will also keep sending them home more themselves. That is the sign you are carrying the weight rightly. You are not collecting, you are cultivating. You are not consumed, you are consecrated. And the rooms you leave behind you breathe easier because your presence taught them how. Chosen one, power is safest where boundary is beautiful. Anyone can draft rules after harm. The royal work is to make borders so humane that harm has nowhere to gather. This month will ask you to practice boundaries not as fences against love, but as frames for it. The possessiveness you meet is the world's attempt to claim what it does not yet know how to keep. Teach it by the way you keep yourself. A boundary spoken early with tenderness becomes a blessing. A boundary spoken late with panic becomes a barricade. Choose the blessing. Begin by letting your boundary be visible in your pace. Keep the rhythm that lets consent be a climate rather than a checkpoint. Do not hire surprise to do conversations work. End the evening while kindness still speaks in full sentences. Leave rooms without deputizing scarcity to make you missed. Decline just 5 more minutes when those minutes would draft tomorrow into paying for today's legend. The heart learns quickly from rhythm. When your cadence remains steady, attention calibrates from possession to partnership, from clinging to choosing. Make your boundary audible in your language. Speak in present tense accuracy rather than future tense inflation. I like this, and I'm not naming it fast. I'm glad we met, and I won't trade clarity for closeness. I respect your feelings, and I will not rush to match them with words my character cannot chaperone. These sentences do not diminish romance, they deepen it by keeping it honest. Women read tone better than promises. If your tone returns agency to them while retaining responsibility for yourself, their bodies will stop bracing for a demand to follow the compliment. Let your boundary be tangible in your body's choices. Touch must translate what your habits have already said about honor. If touch belongs, let it ask softly and hear completely. If it does not belong, let restraint finish the sentence without leaving a bruise on the moment. The skin keeps minutes, the brain forgets. It remembers who governed their heat and who outsourced it to adrenaline. When the memory is safe, attention relaxes. Possessiveness often loosens where safety grows reliable. Guard your identity from becoming a public utility. High energy can make people feel entitled to a share of you that costs your center its cohesion. Keep a portion of your day unmonetized and unmediated. Keep friendships that love your smallness more than your shine. Keep mentors who prefer your obedience to your opportunities. Keep a Sabbath that cannot be negotiated by flattery or need. These are not withdrawals from generosity. They are investments in longevity. Power without boundary becomes emergency services. Power with boundary becomes governance that can serve for years. When someone's desire begins to encircle you, widen the circle rather than stepping inside it. Invite shared spaces, community, counsel, daylight conversations where attention cannot impersonate intimacy. Power is most tempted to misbehave in private fog. Bring fog into rooms with windows, and you will see its shape for what it is. Windows are people who tell you the truth without profit. Times of day when you stay human by design. Places where your name carries exactly the weight of your character and no more. In those spaces, boundary becomes culture instead of confrontation. Prepare to disappoint entitlement without damaging dignity. Disappointment is part of honest boundary. Humiliation is not. Move gently when you decline. Thank people for what was beautiful, rather than dramatizing what must end. Choose simple sentences over sweeping statements so that memory can heal without editing. Where apology is due, give it promptly and with verbs attached. Where explanation is a bid to negotiate your conviction, let silence keep your no from turning into content. You are not responsible for the story someone tells themselves about your boundary. You are responsible for keeping it kind and consistent. Let generosity flow inside the lines you draw. Boundary is not a moat, it's a garden wall. Within it, be lavish with blessing. Offer attention that is not alone. Offer laughter that does not hire casualties. Offer prayer without performance, intercession that asks nothing in return. The more generous you are inside your limits, the less likely people will try to live beyond them to feel loved. This is how chosen ones wield power. They make good ground so abundant that trespassing becomes unnecessary. Do not forget to ask for boundaries in return. Power is healthiest when it honors the lines of others as eagerly as it guards its own. Ask what safety sounds like in her body. Ask how she prefers to be pursued or paused. Believe the answers the first time. Mirror them back with your behavior without making her teach you twice. Mutual boundary is how two lives learn to be large without colliding. It turns possession into respect and respect into room for joy to grow tall. Close your days by returning your authority to the one who lent it. Pray the honest prayer. Here is where I was tempted to be central. Here is where I chose to be accurate. Here is where I tried to buy closeness with speed. Here is where I left, while tenderness still breathed. Protect the people who felt seen near me. Protect me from needing that to feel seen. Strengthen the walls that keep my warmth from becoming wildfire. Then sleep as only governed men sleep, without guarding their image, because their integrity is already on duty. In the morning, put your boundary on like quiet armor and your power on like gentle light. Walk into the day as architecture, not advertisement. Women may still feel the first reflex to hold you tight this month. Your boundary will help them feel the second reflex to trust what is true. And your power, framed by that boundary, will become what God intended all along. Not a claim staked over people, but a covering held above them, wide enough for many to stand under, and safe enough for all to breathe. Chosen one, God often hands a man a mirror in the moment he is most tempted to stare at his crown. This month, the mirror is the feminine, faces brightening when you enter, voices softening because your tone makes room, glances that hold a second too long because your steadiness feels like shelter. Possessiveness may arrive inside those moments disguised as devotion, but if you look carefully, you will see what it truly is. Reflection. She is not only reaching for you, she is reaching for the part of herself your presence has awakened. Your coherence, the agreement between heat and holiness, strength and softness, reminds her of a rhythm she was designed to keep. Admiration turns possessive when fear believes the rhythm will be stolen. Do not shame the fear. Answer it with accuracy. Accuracy begins with how you see her. When a woman circles closer, do not read only hunger, read history. Read the rooms where boundaries were currency and affection was a wage. Read the nights where charm arrived with invoices and attention came as a loan. Your task is not to fix those rooms, you cannot, but to refuse to recreate them. Let your energy be a mirror that returns her to herself rather than a magnet that strips her for proof. Show her, by how you listen, that her voice does not need to perform to stay in the room. Show her, by how you look, that her beauty does not need to purchase its safety. Show her, by how you leave, that endings can be gentle and exact, so beginnings never have to be afraid. The mirror will also reveal you to you. Notice which kinds of praise make your posture grow an inch taller and which kinds make your spine look for a stage. Notice whether your kindness remains the same size when no one is clapping. Notice how quickly you reach for large words when small ones would keep the moment human. Possessiveness can feel like a promotion to the man whose ego is hungry. You must remain fed elsewhere, by prayer that does not ask for spectacle, by work that does not need to be seen to be real, by rest that does not require an audience to be valuable. When your appetite is governed, admiration becomes information, not intoxication. Hold up a clean mirror with your words. When she praises your strength, reflect her resilience. When she marvels at your restraint, reflect her wisdom to name pace. When her possessiveness tightens, reflect her agency by giving it back. I'm honored by your interest, and I want this to remain healthy for both of us. When her story spills toward you, reflect her dignity by not purchasing intimacy with curiosity. Ask the question that returns power, not the one that buys revelation. The mirror teaches by accuracy. It does not flatter, it frames. Make the mirror practical. Protect the hour with edges. Suggest coffee where the room has windows instead of a corner where urgency could impersonate closeness. Offer walks that let the body move while the truth finds language. End while tenderness still breathes so memory can keep its color. Send the follow-up that is exact and kind. I value what we shared. I'm keeping a pace that honors tomorrow. Precision is mercy. It teaches her nervous system that love can be clean without being cold. There will be moments when possessiveness asks for guarantees you cannot give honestly. Do not counterfeit security with speed. Promise only what your character can chaperone. A present tense truth is worth more than a future tense performance. If the mirror shows you pressure, widen the frame. Invite counsel, invite daylight, invite pauses. When admiration has witnesses, it matures. When it hides, it hardens. You will know the mirror is doing holy work when her shoulders lower, her sentences lengthen, and her laughter loses that metallic pitch it learned from survival. Let the mirror correct you into gentleness and sharpen you into clarity. You are not responsible for healing what you did not break, but you are responsible for refusing to use what is fragile. When you carry her attention like a glass of water balanced on an open palm, careful, grateful, unpossessive, you teach both of you something the world forgets. That power can be a porch light and not a searchlight. That heat can be a hearth and not a wildfire. That desire can tell the truth and still let both souls keep their names. In that kind of reflection, possessiveness does not need to grip. It learns to open its hand. And then, chosen one, look into the mirror one more time each night, alone with God. Let him adjust what the day bent, rinse what the day stained, brighten what the day dulled. Name where you wanted to be central more than accurate, and let that confession be the polish that keeps the mirror clear. You will sleep without guarding your image because your integrity will be on duty, and you will wake ready to reflect again, not to be owned, but to be useful. Chosen one, the louder the world leans in, the more heaven listens for your quiet. This month, you will be pulled at by eyes, by invitations, by stories that want your energy to do their heavy lifting. Possessiveness gains momentum in motion. It loses its grip where stillness lives. Stillness is not the absence of movement. It is the mastery of pace. It is the art of keeping your center seated while your life walks. It is what allows you to be magnetic without being moved by every magnet pointed back at you. Begin with breath, the sanctuary you carry in your chest. In rooms where attention quickens the air, let breathing set the metronome. Unhurried breath tells the body there is no emergency, and bodies that believe there is no emergency do not clutch. Speak from the bottom of the breath, not the top of the thrill. Silence between sentences is not a void to be filled. It is a chair where meaning sits to tie its shoes. In that silence, consent has time to arrive, and clarity has time to grow roots. People call a man mysterious when he is merely present enough to let the truth find him. Let your calendar preach stillness. Build margins that prove you are loyal to tomorrow. Leave early while tenderness still breathes. Decline the extra table that would make you impressive tonight and irresponsible in the morning. A disciplined exit is a sacrament. It protects futures from the tax of your charisma. Possessiveness feeds on cliffhangers. Stillness prefers conclusions that bless. When the hour ends on purpose, the soul learns it can trust you to return by choice. Guard your senses. Fame, even the local kind, tries to keep you chronically online in your own mind. Choose moments where you are unreachable on purpose, not as punishment to others, but as obedience to your design. Walk without music until street noise reminds you the world does not need your soundtrack to be real. Eat without a screen until flavors prove you can receive without being entertained. Pray without a list until presence proves you can be loved without performing. The man who can sit still in his belovedness is the only man safe with acceleration. Practice stillness in speech. Answer what is asked, not what your ego wants to demonstrate. Use words that can be lived tomorrow. If you must correct, make it specific and soft. If you must confront, make it private and proportionate. If silence would keep dignity intact, let silence be your eloquence. You will feel the tug to narrate a future when a present tense truth would honor both of you more. Let the tug pass. Speed is a poor substitute for substance. When your speech refuses to gamble with tomorrow, possessiveness has nothing to bargain with. Let your body memorize boundaries until they feel like balance. Stand in ways that create space rather than claim it. Sit in ways that suggest you can stay or go without injury to either of you. If touch belongs in a scene, let it ask like a prayer and answer like a promise. If it does not, let restraint complete the sentence without leaving a bruise on the moment. The nervous system records whether a moment was governed or consumed. Its archive is where trust is written. Stillness is the pen that writes trust in longhand. Invite slowness when the room requests spectacle. Suggest a walk instead of a corner. Suggest questions with long answers instead of confessions with short applause. Suggest water instead of another hour you cannot afford. Slowness is not always exciting, but it is always honest. Honesty is what steadies hands that want to hold too tightly. If she reaches to keep you, stillness helps her discover she is safe without closing her fist. Keep a few people close who love your quiet more than your glow. Let them ask whether you are gentler this week or merely more praised, whether you are more exact or only more visible, whether you are more rested or just more in demand. Accountability shrinks the stage until your soul fits again. It reminds you that applause is a weather report, not a sacrament. The sacrament is obedience. Obedience is done at human speed.